They are our forgotten heroes. The Australian Women's Land Army feel a dire need for labour on the home front during the Second World War. The women became farmers and guaranteed food for the troops. But when the war ended, their service was largely ignored, and many women felt shunned as both the federal government and the Returned and Services League denied them recognition. Until the mid-1980s, they couldn't even march on Anzac Day. Since then, they've marched with pride, but now age has slowed their steps. Veterans of the Australian Women's Land Army met in Sydney today for what they say is their last parade. Greg Miskelly prepared this special report.
I believe this is our last.
Hey, what about you girls? Why aren't you over here?
But do you feel like you need a carer? No.
This is the last parade, yes.
You ladies make Anzac Day for us. We've marched with you for so many years. I mean, we wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for you guys. And
I think it will be, because the majority of them are in their 90s. It will be fun, but look, it's an important day. It's a day of remembrance, and I'll never forget what people did.
They were hard years, yes. And we all worked hard, but we enjoyed it. We didn't think anything of it.
28 days straight, without out a day off.
Every human being in this country is now, whether he or she likes it, at the service of the government to work in the defence of Australia.
I'm DOREEN Malone, and I joined the Land Army in 1943. I was 22. I was having a lot of trouble at home. I think it was time to leave. And I went into Sydney and went into Martin Place and decided to join the Land Army. The advertisements in the Women's Weekly were absolutely beautiful. Picking cherries looked lovely, and riding a tractor looked lovely.
Well, we've travelled quite 1,000 miles or more to pick the cotton grown at Theodore.
My name is Sue Maslin, and I'm a producer, and I got totally intrigued by the story of the land girls, the women who worked on the farms during the Second World War. It wasn't until around 1942 that the government realised that there was an absolute crisis on their hands. We were feeding not only the Australian troops, but visiting US troops and then sending food back to Great Britain.
After 4 months in the Central Coast, I was transferred to Yenda, and that was an eye-opener. The corrugated iron dormitories they'd built roughly, which was so hot in the summer like an oven and freezing cold in the winter.
My name is Peggy Williams. I joined the Land Army in 1942. I was 17 and I went to the Murrumbidgee irrigation area, Leeton. But our first job was picking fruit, oranges, and the ladder, I nearly collapsed just looking at the ladder without having to lift it and climb it and come down with a full bag of fruit.
I had muscles as if I was pumping steel, muscles like a man. Plump girls became lovely firm figures, skinny girls, which I was, filled out and come into a body. Wonderful, changed my life.
My name's Annie Campbell. I'm the curator of Homefront Wartime Sydney, 1939 to 45. This exhibition really evokes the whole period of wartime in Sydney.
It's up to you and it's up to me.
This was definitely the beginning of the feminist movement.
It's up to you and it's up.
We were there to feed the troops because the farmers and the sons had gone away to the war. We weren't very popular in some places because the wives thought, oh, they come in to disrupt things.
I used to sing, and there was a little dance hall that would have been about 10 miles out of Batlow where we used to go to the dances.
When Sydney was bombed, Wellington Street, Bondi.
I used to live there.
We didn't have any counselling at all. If anything went wrong, we had to sort it out ourselves. And those girls lost husbands, brothers, sweethearts. I mean, we often sat down and cried because it was so hard, because it was hard. But, you know, it was just this friendship, and all we talked about was when the war was over, what we would do.
The real tragedy is that the Australian Women's Land Army, while being called an army, was not a service. They had the badge, they had the uniform, but they did not have any of the conditions and the recognition that went with the other women's services.
The Land Army ladies write me letters and tell me different things, you know, how they appreciate the magazine and what they're doing. Some of them have lost their husband. They're going to miss it terribly when it stops.
This year is our 70th anniversary. We're going to be awarded, and I don't care who knows it, I probably will get into trouble for saying it, but they're going to give us a badge of distinction, a brooch, a book with every Land Army girl's name in it, and a certificate. And we don't have to fight for it.
Remembered rightly at last. That report produced by Greg Miskelly.